Guess we'll get started. I haven't heard if Steve is coming or not, but otherwise we're all here. And
Mariah is up here.
and we got Mariah
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Good. Glad you could make it. Glad it's working.
Thanks. Yeah, sorry I couldn't come in person, but I'm glad we could do it this way too.
Okay. Since we have a guest and a couple sort of new members, we're gonna go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Doug Hogan, Chair.
Jeff Gale, Vice Chair and Treasurer.
Gary Embry, Commissioner, head of the hiking group. So,
Matt Morris, alternate.
Pat Lindsay, I do the minutes.
Dan Melvin.
Paul Panish, Commissioner.
Dan Cassidy, alternate. And Mariah?
Mariah Hammershaw.
Okay. And we have a guest here. Oh, Steve. And squeeze you in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Everybody shook hands.
Yeah, we got a full house tonight, so it's good.
Thank you.
We're just introducing ourselves.
Oh,
We are,
is it my turn?
yeah.
Steve, I'm the newest member of the Conservation Commission.
Great. Before we introduce our guest, what?
Brian Roll.
She's an alternate, or at least, I'm not sure if it's been approved yet. You don't, they
I
didn't
don't
have.
think it's been approved yet.
Yeah, I think it was on the agenda for Monday's meeting, but,
I didn't look carefully and
Yeah.
I left when that started.
yeah. And, we don't get the
Yeah.
minutes for some time,
It's gonna take the oath anyway.
but I think you're both approved as far as the
Okay.
select board, but you have to do a oath.
The oath, yeah. I have to do them for the
Town
record
hall,
part,
yeah.
too, like I knew one.
So you know the deal, but anyway, did you hear? I just thought, since you're new to this, you could say a little bit about yourself, why you wanted to be on the commission and what your interests are.
So my interests are recreation, right? Like I'm a big recreation guy, and I'd love to see our lands be used for stuff like that. Like I'd love to, revamp the trails that are on them and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
That's really my main interest in learning about how you guys work.
Great, all right, welcome. We'll just go over a couple of preliminary things before we get to our guest speaker. Partly because certain financial aspects might have some bearing on what we do with it. Did anybody get a look at the minutes in the last meeting? They're all looked okay?
Wasn't there, but I reviewed them.
Yeah, good, okay.
Seems about
No changes?
64,000.
I noticed one little typo on, it's really small, but I have this, on the Limos, planning item,
On an Oak Hill.
at the end of it, yeah, the Oak Hill development, at the very end, it said, that we do not have comments. And
Right,
should be no comments, right? So,
just say had no comments
Yeah.
instead of no further comments.
well, it said not comments, or had
Not
an
further
extra
comments,
T.
okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
I mean, not that anybody really get
I got it.
confused, but.
It's all set.
Good, all right. So we'll accept the minutes as slightly amended there. Great, okay. And the financial report.
Okay, a lot of those bills that we had before finally got through the system, so we paid 4 bills totaling $78,133.08. The big one, of course, was the Dudzik donation. But we also paid for, he reimbursed me for a little bit of IT costs. It was that NHACC, the National Association of Conservation Commission dues, and we paid for the Western Environmental Study. Because like I said,
That's it with 65,000?
yeah. So that came out to that number, which is good because our Q1 land use change tax was almost identical at $78,639.75. So it was within.
That was a lot.
Yeah. So our balance right now is $797,234.72.
Well, that doesn't include the engineering study? Or did you mention
No, that hasn't been paid out yet. There's been an initial paperwork and request put in for it.
Okay. It's not-
But I've got to work better with Peter to put our expenses down on the date that they're incurred and not when we say we're going to do them.
Right. anyway, the order was put in, right?
Yeah.
So we probably should subtract that.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with 735, is that? Like that,
I forget what they said.
64,100.
Yeah, so that would bring it to, about 734.
You'll pay that this month?
Oh, no, I'm sure that won't be done this month.
Well, sometime this quarter, anyway.
Is it paid in a lump or in installments?
No, I think it's a long thing. You know, it's going to the town engineer.
Right.
It's in May, so I expect that's a pretty routine thing. So anyway, that's where we're at financially. Anything else? No outstanding bills?
I do have a bill, I'm trying to pull the data together, it was just to re-up our URL. It was a minor bill. Also, our network provider has changed again.
Mhm.
When I took over the job, it was Dotster.com, then it became Web.com, and now they're becoming Network Solutions. So people are buying each other out there. It's crazy, but they say it'll be invisible to us as far as what people's things.
Okay, great. So get on to our guests. I think some of you already know Lori from CELT, who spoke here a week ago.
Is that all right?
At the end, or excuse me.
Let's do that.
It's easier.
Perfect.
When was it, last fall you were
I
here?
know, I was just trying to think about
Yeah.
that. I think it was last fall, and I thought,
Yeah.
because I brought materials,
What do you want first, Lord, Camping Brook or?
Yeah,
airs. Airs. Fine,
Yeah.
yeah. And here's the handout as well. Thank you for putting that up on the
Sure.
screen. I was here last fall to update sort of the work that CELT has been gearing up for in Barrington with a family that has been a landowner for many, many years. It's the Bedford family. So Carolyn Bedford she and her husband acquired land over many, many years for timber management. So they had multiple parcels. He passed away, and then recently, I think in 2023, Carolyn passed on. And the trustees are the siblings. There's 3 siblings, Hillary and her 2 brothers. And they approached CELT early in 2020, I think late 2022, early 2023, about purchasing these conservation parcels. And it was approached as a phased kind of conversation. And so when I was here before, I was talking about 3 recent ones that we were working on. And if you look at the second map, the one that Jack has the different conservation lands, you can see the area called Stonehouse Brook. The parcel between Layton Forest and Stonehouse Forest. Those 2 parcels are owned by CELT and have been, big acquisitions several years ago. So we purchased Stonehouse Brook property, that was 72 acres, closed in March 2024. And then we also, there's a small 4-acre parcel. It's hard to see because it's just added on to that little, Swain Road addition, sort of right at the little, point it to you. It's just a 4-acre, addition adding to Stonehouse Forest. It was this little piece, right? So we did this one, and this is all phase 1. And then Malago Brook Headwaters is, resources that flows down to the Bellamy River. That was an 83-acre project that we completed. And we wrapped those up and we started talking about the next phase. So we'll call those, 1, 2, and 3. So the next phase is what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, is the Ayers Pond West project. And on that map that you still have in front of you, if you could scroll it down a tiny bit. Oh, perfect.
There you go.
So we're talking about the 410 acres that are in the blue. And so it's think a 49-acre parcel that is frontage along the Isinglass River. And then this parcel is 368, so the total's 410. To get you oriented, this is Donegan Way off of Washington Street, and it enters into the property. The dam, the DES dam is over here. This property has forests, wetlands, streams, vernal pools. It's high value habitat for Blanding's turtles, which are an endangered species. There's open water marshes for waterfowl, nesting birds, migratory birds. We know there's a loon, right, nest on Ayers Pond. So this would be all habitat that protects the water quality to Ayers Pond and provides the protection to the sensitive forest and wetland features. This red parcel is phase 5. So this was, Stonehouse 2 and 3. This is 4. The red is the 5th acquisition that we'll be working on, and after we complete this project. And that is this one. Yeah, it's actually owned by just the one Bedford, Hillary, the daughter. So she, is keeping, that's going to happen down, later. But as you can see in this landscape, we're really been focusing on, this connecting and protecting the north-south from Layton to Stonehouse Forest up in here. And then all of this will help combine protection to A. Harlan Caliph Preserve.
We've been waiting for that Ayers Lake land for years.
Okay.
And I gather the yellow is like stage, where are we, 7?
Yes, that's probably 6, right? I know, right? 5, 6, those are, and I know to give you a preview, but we are, so sorry, thank you, Doug. This is probably 6. And this parcel is right off of Town Farm Road, that parcel, and all across, to the pond. I think the campground's been, I think they've changed hands or sold it to the campground, right? They are considering maybe some, protection sort of to provide sort of more of a connection there, but that's basics. But this one's interesting because it's part of this area, and we've just recently gotten under agreement a 12-acre parcel right around here. And it's got frontage on the Isinglass River. I'm going to be closing on that. That was 2 sisters. The family is Rothstein. And so it was Pauline Sanford's property, and she had 2 daughters, and the 2 daughters now own it. And we are purchasing that parcel from them. It's 12 acres. It's got a discontinued road through here, but, in Selt's mind, it can be managed once we acquire this parcel. So that's adding that connection. Again, more protection to the state designated Isinglass River.
I'm just going to orient, if you're not familiar with the trailhead to the trail going into the Caliph West is at, where those 2 meet. So that's good to have that additional protection.
We also have a trail that I know in the we call Caliph West, that goes up from the river environment, that goes up to the gold property towards the north.
Okay.
It's abandoned trail. We hiked it, we did a little clearing, but it was gonna go nowhere. We couldn't get out.
Yeah.
We decided not to, further improve it, but now that we could actually get out to the road and other properties, it might be worth reconsidering it.
Yeah, it's possibly a new trailhead. So, but that's some years.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
But we
But,
spend most of our time in that area,
Yeah.
around the river,
right,
Yeah.
and the old sites, of course, from the old town farm.
right.
Yeah.
And so in the map, you can see the purple are self-properties, and then there's other conservation lands. We have the property under agreement, and we're planning to close by the end of 2026, so December 2026. And this has been a project that is a high priority because of the resources, and it's in a area that has great connectivity for wildlife, it's also, in an area that has high potential for nutrient, attenuation, adding climate resiliency, sort of a, it's been managed, it's been cut before, so, there's been some, activity, but we don't see any need for immediate further management. And the vernal pools are interspersed. This map here is the sort of the zoom in aerial map. And you can see, there's some really high quality wetlands in the north of the property, nice systems that flow down to the pond. But then as the flowage from the pond through the dam comes through the property, that is a really, it opens up into a emergent marsh, almost like a fen area, which is.
Are these teardrops vernal pools?
So the teardrops are the vernal pools.
Wow.
And I'm going out there Monday to, so so one of the grant opportunities that we have applied for require a lot of analysis of the wetlands and the amount of wetland acreage as well as the types of wetlands. And we had that wetland West Environmental go out and map the wetlands for us and put on the map these locations of the vernal pools. He also found a turtle nesting, area, which was you couldn't tell from the shells, right? Whether it's a band-aids or painted, but that was a very interesting feature to note. There's also 4 vernal pools on the property south on the Isinglass River. And the Isinglass, as you know, is designated and has listed species as well. Bridal shiners, I think. I know. I thought it had eastern brook trout, but somebody can correct me.
I'm on the Isinglass River
Right.
Local Advisory Committee,
Yes.
so more land on the Isinglass.
Right.
Protected is wonderful.
Right. Yes. And that's what we're trying to highlight too with that other parcel that we're getting off of Town Farm Road. The importance of that. Keeping a buffer to that river and keeping it, the temperature cool is really important to species.
So has a management plan been done?
For these, we've had our stewardship staff out there. And so when we get sort of closer to, they're working on projects at this moment on other properties, but they will be developing a forest management plan. And that's, then, worked out with the staff in terms of, what would take place down the road. But you can see some, the area here has been, cut. They went up, a little ways, and I think, this is Barrington with all the different hills and sort of drop-offs and rock formation. There's a lot of unique features out there, and I think, that was, they ended their cut sort of for those reasons. It's pretty hard to get out there. This is, a costly project, and one of the grant sources that we were looking for was the Natural Resource Conservation Service, USDA and RCS, right?
Does it still exist?
Very the state conservationist is retiring, not really wanting to. And so, so that program at the time would have helped funded this project.
Mm-hmm.
And those sources are no longer available.
Mm-hmm.
But I did pursue a grant opportunity that I told you about with the wetland scientist and all the wetland mapping. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a program that's called the North American Wetlands Conservation Act. So they have funds that are in that, there's two sources, two programs. The small grant program is for these kind of, regionally important properties. The large grant applications are for really national, like 5,000, 10,000 acres. So we applied, put a lot of attention, and have biologists out there looking at the waterfowl habitat. It's a really extensive application. And we were notified, we received the 250,000 from them. So that was just, so with that in mind and our heads on, like with that boost, we pretty much said, we need to now just focus on local sources of funding, state grant programs. There's the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership. They award grants up to $25,000 for transactions. We're looking at the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. They have the Great Bay 2030 program that still has funding available. Looking at hoping to apply to them for like 50 to 100,000. And coming tonight to answer any questions and to just explain the property, explain the project, and see if there is any kind of appeal that I can make to the commission for helping support the project financially as well.
Do you have a fundraising goal at this point?
So right now we have like $175,000 that would need to be raised. Either it's private sources, which we would pursue, and support from the commission.
Have you ever done any matching type proposals?
Yeah, so.
Does that work locally?
Locally, so the federal grant that we got does look at match.
Well, they require,
Yes.
those, what I mean is, you hear these things on, all kinds of fundraisers.
Right.
Where if someone will make a donation, that you have a donor that will match it or double it or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
And it seems to work for them because they keep doing it. And I'm just wondering if SELT has ever tried
Yeah,
anything.
we've had like capital campaigns. Yes, we have. And it's focused on, area and, and that's sort of, you asked how much, and we're, looking at that kind of balance. If we, sure.
Yeah, I just got a quick question. Now, is it the under 75 goal, is that for both these parcels or?
Right,
That's for both of them?
right.
Okay. And I think last time you were here, you talked a little bit about is there public access to either of these parcels?
So there is a pull off to the Isinglass parcel that, you would have to get across the river. It's pretty easy to, manage. There is this, I think it's Misty Lane. That you can, I think, and it says, that's how this parcel was cut previously to the northern piece. And they came in that way and down into the property. But that is, if there's fishermen or, hunt, people that want to walk it or hunt, that would be probably the easiest way is to get across the small, the part of the river there, which actually is some hopping on rocks, but.
Yeah, there was somebody on private land just, you see where the river does a little fish hook below the 49 acres? Someone built a wood bridge across that about 3 or 4 years ago. I looked and said, God, is that legal? Like 2 weeks later, it was gone. Part of it was not high above the water. And we all know that the water will get high there. So I think someone might have told me, hey, that's going to be downstream pretty soon. But that is Misty.
And the bigger parcel, that's
Indonesia.
Yeah, it's sorry. Misty has some homes on it. I think it is private. Indonesian is also I think it's a private road as well, and then some of it goes on to the property. There is a gate. So that is a way into the property. There's a gate that the Department of Environmental Services has there for, people not going up and over onto the dam, damaging the dam. But that is, the way into the property. And I want to actually rephrase and answer your question as well. Fundraising, that is the total amount, 175. We are feeling confident that we could do the 100,000, so if that's the question, we were wondering if the commission would be able to support the project, but that's our overall fundraising goal, so.
Meaning for these parcels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is both. It's, they own this, so we would gain fee title to both of these.
All 410 acres.
Exactly, and to tell you the truth, so this is a combination of 5 parcels, 5 tracks, all displayed together, and then the lower one is 2 tracks, so it's, and if you remember on the combination, so if you see the Parker's property, so the other map that has all
One
the
has a
property,
purple, yeah.
there we go, thank you. So here we are, so that's gonna be, acquisition down the road. O'Connell, we completed in January 2024. I should have pointed that out, that's 140 acres. Which has, there's some driveway across the road that I'm forgetting its name right now, sorry. But you can park here. So, there is this landscape that's going to be connected when we, get through. So I just want to make sure you understood that Parker's also abuts this property.
Are there any?
So the one that's in red right there, is that you're buying that one as well, or you're?
Down the road, yeah,
Down the road.
yeah.
Phase 5.
Yeah,
Phase
phase 5, thank you. And any trail, so I would say loosely, the northern property, once you get into here, there's a nice trail through here, and then you can course through here on the existing woods roads. Yeah, yeah, and this one was, I think, more of the haul road, so it's a really nice,
I've been out there with Matt Town. It's nice out there,
yeah,
down to the dam.
yeah.
People live in the
This
northern part of the
actually abuts my property. There's some pretty extensive trails that go around Ayers Pond through this, and you can mountain bike.
Okay, thank you. We have gotten up there, there's like a little bridge up there, right? It's named after someone, I can't remember what the name is right now, I have a picture of it, but I figured it was someone with the Ayers Pond Association.
Yeah, it's, so Nancy Lewis built it. who
Okay.
She recently passed away, but she got her COVID check.
Okay.
Remember during their
Yeah.
stimulus checks, and she immediately built a little bridge, because she was already quite elderly at that
Yeah.
point, so to get across into the
Right.
property.
Where is that?
It's off of Isaac Road. Is
It's,
it
oops, right there.
Yeah.
Right where West Ayers Road
Yeah.
enters the property, so.
This marsh system up here is really key for waterfowl. There's a lot of ducks that come through. Ayers Pond has a loon nest on it. So this is why it was very appealing to the federal grant program. What else?
Is there what were the objectives going in as far as the use of the land? Or do we have to wait for the future assessments?
I'm sorry.
Public access for hiking?
Oh, so the access is off of this, this Dunnigan.
Yeah.
The landowners are a little strict about people driving in there. I know. So whether So we're working on that issue with them kind of and moving the gate. So then there may be opportunity for a few cars before the gate. So then there'd be no motorized vehicles. Yeah, right, yeah.
But there is access. I mean, you can get in there on a trail and walk in there.
Yeah. You could walk down the road and walk through there easily, and it would be open for public, right?
Yeah, but without some form of parking, it was just dirt.
Yeah.
It's not really accessible. You said I've come in from the north, but I haven't come that way.
Yeah. But like Mariah pointed out, I think there are some other ways to sort of park and get in. And then we will be adding the Parkhurst parcel, so it's then all connected to O'Connell as well.
Because I know
Yeah.
some up on Stillwell and Ayers Road, up this northern part here, they have a set of trails there. And I went out with Matt once and he goes, these are our local trails. You can walk them as long as you're with me. So,
On their property?
yeah, it's their
Yeah.
property, but it cuts a few across some of the roads and stuff, but it's nice.
Right.
Area to
Mariah, did you-
get on this property.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have something, Mariah? Question?
Yeah, I was just curious about the access from the DES dam that's on the south end of the Ayers Pond. I know you mentioned kind of the campground being acquired by someone else because you could cross that dam and maybe park somewhere near the campground.
The campground doesn't abut
Oh,
the
yes, okay.
property. The Hatch family owns a parcel in there that separates the campground from the
Okay.
Yeah.
Bedford property.
And there's the Ipsum, the
Mm-hmm.
Yellow House
Oh, yeah,
farm is in there too.
that's right.
Yeah.
Heirloom chicken farm.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we can talk a little bit about funding. You've heard what our current balance is, so relatively flush with funds. But I think we probably mentioned previously, we have this thing hanging over our head, the re-engineering of the Richardson Dam,
Right.
which is also a self-interest.
Mm-hmm.
And we still don't know yet. In fact, we just requisitioned a new engineering study to determine what it's going to end up costing. We're hoping we can kind of split it 50-50 with the town, other funds, but it's still going to be somewhere in the order of a couple $100,000, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But it still seems like we're probably able to come up with somewhere around 75, 100,000. Does that seem reasonable to people?
What is the target time frame? So we'll be looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
Because could we make a decision more confidently if we were to get that study back and say,
That's
yes, you're
true,
one.
yeah. We'll know more.
And we talk to the town
And well,
about.
also, do we have some other parcels that we're going to discuss? I mean, there's another file that you had sent, Doug, I think.
Well, no, that's not a funding issue. It's
It's
really
not.
just, I mean,
Okay.
there's the Coot Farm, eventually something will happen there. So,
Look,
we don't want to,
No, I
all
mean,
our
do we have
funds-
another, we don't have another proposal for tonight? Okay,
not current.
okay.
Right. No, it's a very good point. We will be, so we're also applying to the LCHIP program. I missed that one, sorry. And we submitted and have been invited back to apply to that. And so if we know that that's looking good in July, August, we're really, targeting to try to close by, June 2026, that would be.
Any idea how much phase 5 is going to cost? That's an important chunk, right?
Right, yeah, and it's, and the town farm property is important too, that's got some, I don't know. That would require a new appraisal, because these appraisals were done like in, 2023, so.
So that's at least 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I totally understand the Richardson Dam, we talked about it the last time I was here, and
Right.
those projects, But if that's something you would like me to like just check in on, or like keep you.
We'll probably be checking in with you, because
Yeah.
we probably can't do anything without self okay.
Oh, Richardson, yeah,
Yeah.
I meant like this project though, if, you want me to, let me know how the grant funding is going.
Yeah, I think it's more a matter of if we have a better sense of what we're on the hook for as far as Richardson Dam. You know, it still seems like in any case, we ought to be able to come up with, you know, at least give you a ballpark figure.
The scheduling on that engineering study is for completion this July.
I don't recall, but it's probably.
It's coming up. It was,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
done
they
late.
had it
There's
all
a few
laid out.
phases, but I think it was supposed to be done by mid-July.
Yeah, so maybe we'll know about when you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
The more we know, the more confident we take a vote for
Yeah,
maybe a better amount.
right,
yeah, I don't
okay,
think we want to
okay.
be too loose about
Yeah.
the figures at this point, you know.
Great.
At least, yeah.
When's the last time we confirmed with the select board that we were, we were on a 50-50 deal?
I mean, I talked with Connor just a couple weeks ago. I mean, he's not, yeah, he doesn't vote, but, you know, and given the makeup of the board, I think there's still support there, but yeah, we really don't know. But we should know more by midsummer, hopefully. So I hope that's enough to go
Yeah,
on for now.
oh, I'm
You
so,
know, I'm pretty sure we'll come up with something. I just
Okay.
can't give you a
All right.
figure yet.
Lori, I haven't met you before. I met Melvin. I wonder what your job title was at Cell.
oh, sure,
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm the Coastal Watershed Land Conservation Manager. And so I worked 30 years plus at Department of Environmental Services in the Wetlands Bureau, and retired for maybe 2 minutes, 6 months, and just felt like I want to do, continue doing land conservation. In my previous job, I was involved with grant programs. And so there's this position, my position is unique. It's funded by the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership. And that's a collaboration of 15 organizations and also communities where it's, sort of trying to partner on the science and then how that can relate to the landscape. And they developed a great coastal conservation plan. It was, put out on the presses in 2021. And in that, it's pretty much the roadmap for where these most resilient and high habitat value, water quality and, reducing water quality degradation, where those parcels are. And my position is unique. I can proactively go out and work with landowners and talk to them about these properties and see if they're interested in pursuing conservation. This just was sort of in the works when I started. So this landowner's conservation minded, their parents always were, so that's been a good relationship. I used to live in Stratford too, so I love this whole area and this landscape, so it's pretty exciting. Great. Any other questions?
Can I ask one other real
Yeah.
quick? It's kind of so there's an island? I see
Yeah.
it right sort of in the middle of the frontage? Yeah, well.
Yeah, you can see it on here, right?
Yeah,
Right here?
and will that be included? Do you know what the status of that would be?
So we evaluated that, it's more of a, emergent marsh, but we did count it in terms
So
of
that's where the loon nesting area
right,
is.
and so we counted it towards the habitat value of
Okay.
the parcel. Which it should be, because it's, an important wetland system that adds value to the whole pond and area.
The Bedfords used to post it, and then most of the sign's been ripped down or they've kind of gone away, but I didn't know if it would be.
The island there?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I think
Well-
there's a channel behind it and you can actually pull up. There used to be a picnic table and it's pretty marginal land. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
pretty mushy, but,
Mhm.
there was a couple of treat areas in there.
You can,
Right.
you can reach it on foot from the
No,
mainland?
no.
Okay.
Then mud boat.
No,
It's a real
it's,
island,
you
yeah.
fall
Okay,
in,
just
right?
making
You
sure.
sink in and.
We got one pair of loons, we're gonna protect them.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I just didn't know if it would be included and could be posted, because people,
Yeah,
they do go behind that and go onto the island, and that's where the nesting is, and we've had issues over the, I live on the pond,
oh,
so.
nice, okay. I'll look at the title. I think I personally don't think it does, but, we assessed it and added it, the habitat value in with this, conservation project, but I can check on that.
Okay.
But I gather nobody else would own it, right? I mean, if it's.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an ownership,
Kind of a-
it's just
yeah.
whether it can be restricted,
Yeah,
Right.
Sounds like.
Yeah,
something
and
like-
we wouldn't,
yeah,
we wouldn't.
keep off the
Right,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Purge people, show up.
But you think that loons are nesting there?
Yeah, they nest just sort of on the marshy side facing the
Okay.
main part of the lake.
Yeah.
And there's already issues with people motorboating by it
Yeah.
when they're nesting.
Okay. I've seen the loons on the pond, but didn't know where they nested. And there was a lot of waterfowl, like in the
Mhm.
south by the dam. They really
Right.
like that area.
Yeah.
I brought a few cards. I'll leave them. If there's any other questions or contact me, I'm happy to respond to, sorry. I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
Great, well,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
You may get a invite from the Lake Association.
I love that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
sure.
know. I think we talked about
Because
that.
you'll get possibly some donations that way too.
Okay, excellent, great. I think last year I was.
I-
Yes, you and I did. I know. So let's make that work this year. Great. Thank you all very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Okay, on to the next item. Yeah, Bending Brook. If you recall, this is going back some years now, but this is the Gov Hill gravel or sand pit off of Malago Road that, has been in the works for some time, and it is a conservation subdivision. The issue right now is and has been for a while, is the public access, basically. And this is the latest map, I guess, that was developed. The deal is we don't have a Barrington Trails trail in that area, but the snowmobilers have used it extensively. Mainly just that yellow line through the middle there is kind of their route to get from the center of town, 125 area, over to Goodwill, and then south to Swains Lake. And they also had that other trail heading south to get directly to Malago Road. But you can see that one of the new houses, there's two individual houses in addition to that cul-de-sac, and they have taken up that area. I was just by there today, and there's a house sitting there, so, that trail is discontinued. So the idea was, how can we create a alternate route? And it turns out that between those houses on the lower part there's I think it's 30 foot or so right of way that the town has. And they have a kind of combination deal that they want to run a water conduit through there to drain off Malago Road. Evidently, they get some flooding on there. And so they want to drain it down into the pit. You can see if you can see the topo lines, but there's a pretty good drop off, 60, 80 feet, I think, down into the pit. And then you can see, not that wetland in the center there, but just below it, there's kind of a low area. I don't know if there's a marking there. I don't know, Paul, if you can put the.
In this area here.
Yeah, a little bit to the left. That
yes.
open space there, that is actually in the bottom of the pit, and it's an open, flat area. And so the idea is to have a settling pond, a drainage pond down there, and then have the trail also follow the same route over the pipe, I guess, once they get it all installed, and then continue down the slope across the pit and then back up the slope on the other side, which is going to be a bit of a trick constructing it, but that's their plan. And then continue on to the existing red trail in the back, on the right there, upper right. And then from there, continue down Malago Road, which isn't great, but I guess the snowmobilers have managed it.
I was wondering what they do there. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's not a big shoulder either.
No.
I don't know, but that's the plan. And then the deal is there's a parking area. If you go to the next map below there, yeah, that brown circle there is where the parking, and it's all built. It's up and functioning. They put down a gravel, and it's available. It's fairly small, maybe 4 or 5 cars, something like that. But it's there, and that's of course adjacent to the entrance. And then I guess they're creating a second trail that isn't there currently. If you go back to the other map, it's in red there.
This up here.
Well, no, I'm sorry, just right on the left
here.
border there, yeah. And I believe that's all just open ground at the moment because that all got regraded. But the idea is to have an access down to the
River.
Yeah, the brook there, Malago Brook. And there is an existing trail at that upper left corner there. I've been down there. Some of us walked out there when we did the sidewalk 3 years ago. Again, do you remember that? We had a whole bunch of people with Mr. Falzone and pointed it out. So, we certainly don't want to encourage a lot of traffic along the brook. It's pretty sensitive, and this is just upstream from Turbocam, and of course it all drains into the Bellamy Reservoir. So it's kind of an important waterway. So anyway, the reason this has come up now is that because the plan's been all approved. I mean, they're out there building stuff. But the disposition of the conservation area and these trails is still somewhat to be determined. But Mr. Falzone wants to order a bunch of signs to post, of course, at the trailhead, at the parking area, as well as at these various trail junctions. And on the slope, they have a deal with the town that we don't want people, diving off the sand cliff and kids getting killed or whatever. So there's a little liability issue, basically, right? I believe they're going to create a trail that's, manageable by people and bicycles or whatever, snowmobiles, of course. So it'll have some slope to it, but at an angle. But you don't want people going up and down the rest of the slopes. Part of their plan is to regrade all those slopes anyway, so they're going to have vegetation on them eventually, hopefully.
It looked like you got some severe downhill there.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's almost a cliff.
We're gonna have being crushed by its own sled.
Stairs or a ladder or something.
Yeah,
No,
I was just out there.
Yeah.
It's steep, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they seem to think they can make that work. I mean,
I think
obviously
there's gonna be maybe some cutbacks there,
Yeah.
switchbacks.
yeah, they're definitely going to be.
I know snowmobilers don't care for switchbacks.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they show it going straight up the slope, because that doesn't seem to make sense at all. But of course, if you get too far over to the upward, you get into that wetland and the buffer for that. And that's a very nice little wetland, actually. It's not just a hole in the ground.
So is Falzone gonna cut this trail?
That's not clear, but he's going to post it. He's going to put the signs up, and I guess the town will. I'm not sure exactly how that. I think it'll be part of the grading plan because, like I said, they have to deal with the slopes, so presumably building.
Yeah. But this looks like
Trail.
its primary use is gonna be snowmobile because it doesn't
Right.
connect to a whole lot of other places. And it's
Well,
replacing a path that they already use.
Right.
So they could probably better comment and
Yeah.
come up with maybe refinement to that blue line.
At that intersection right there, get to like Cozy's Pizza and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, to the you know, what do you call, it's not really a shopping center, but the movie
Barrington
theater, the Barrington Station, yes.
No, but after that, right,
Um,
like before this development, I wanna say there's a turnoff that'll take you up to Cozy's, I wanna say, I could be wrong,
I believe that's the other way, because I've been on the trail, but
Yeah,
and
now
I'm sorry
it's
this
more
map
Cozy's.
doesn't really show it, but, when we get our big map that's gonna show all the trails, it's on there. But where that red line goes off on the right,
but, yeah.
it goes actually into the creek, and originally it went through the creek, but now there's a really nice bridge. It's like
That's what I'm
10 feet
thinking,
wide
yeah.
and, you know, good wooden bridge
Yeah.
because the snowmobilers built it. And after you cross that, it turns to the north
That's what
and
I'm thinking, yeah.
eventually gets to the back of the, you know, the movie theater lot there.
So
And
that's
you can get from there to the elementary school and then on to the town center. So even though, yes, it's only for snowmobilers currently, it's part of this grand vision of connecting the downtown to other areas.
Yeah.
And they specifically, you know, wanted to include a route to Goodwill because everybody loves the food trail. They thought, wouldn't it be neat that you could walk or get on your bike and ride from, you know, Calip's to the food trail without going on Route 9 and worrying about traffic and all that. Because the deal is after you get out of or Malago Road, you get to Pasture Hill Road. I guess it's a private road, but the snowmobilers have a deal that they're allowed to go up there and you can get to Goodwill from there. But I don't think the trails folks have ever, or at least not in recent memory, haven't had any kind of arrangement. But I think that's the idea, is that eventually we'll all be interconnected. So really the reason I'm bringing it up here tonight is, as I said, Mr. Falzone wants to go ahead and get these signs built. And, you know, some of them are just gonna say trail this way, others are gonna say steep slope, stay off, you know. That sort of thing, you know.
But stay on the trail, but don't go down the steep slope.
So, you know, and I'm sure the Trails Committee hasn't had a chance to see this. I did run it by Charlie, or at least.
He does know about
Well, I sent him the material.
Okay.
I don't know if he's looked at them.
it. Just this week?
Yeah, last week, I guess. So anyway, I need to get back to the developer I don't think there's an issue. I just figured we should at least officially approve it, if that all sounds good to you. He has quite a few signs in mind, just because there are several locations where he wants to post them. But I figured anything we can get them to do, then we don't have to pay for. That's a good
Has he
thing.
talked to the snowmobilers? Because they seem to have the most.
I presume so, yeah. I had understood there were some issues with this right of way, you know, going down to Malago Road there, that the neighbors didn't like it, but maybe they gave an offer they couldn't refuse, or I don't know. I wouldn't want to have snowmobiles zipping by my house. You can see that one that's right, not very far from it. But that's the plan, as you know it now.
I'm surprised he's so gung-ho about this.
Well, again, it's not so much the developer, but the town is kind of holding their feet to the fire, to be honest.
Oh, to have some,
Because we want to maintain this access, and, you know, it's
Okay.
our conservation area. You know, the town will own this land. That's the other thing, is that this will be under town, you know,
okay.
ownership. So, you know, we want to make the best of it. So,
Sounds
But
like a steep walk.
the town is doing the drainage project,
right.
so that's gotta happen before any trail construction.
Yeah. I'm saying that the trail is not in the offing for
Right.
this year or maybe the next year. On the official map of the plan, it says, you know, to be determined, or, you know, they have to do a bunch of engineering work to figure out how that water's gonna go down, and obviously you can't really have a trail until you deal with that. And it's also wooded in there, so they're gonna have to clear it out some. So anyway, right now it's just a matter of the signage. So unless there are other questions about any of this, I entertain a motion to approve the signage plan.
what little there is. I'll make a motion that the commission approve the signage plan. It would be nice if we would get something written about it.
Yeah, I mean, I did get it was very sketchy. It just listed the number of signs, and sorry, I didn't bring a copy with me here, but, like I said, it's what they determined was needed to lay out the trail as is, so.
I'm interested, what, have you snowmobiled through there?
No, but I'm looking at the map. I'm pretty sure I'm right that there is a turnoff up there for cozies, and I don't know if it's the one that goes right by that house or if it's the. I saw a sign for it the other day when I was out there.
Yeah, it could be, but
Does this new
it's south
trail make
of there,
sense?
right?
Yeah, it's like
That's
right. It's
south
like right
of
before you
Mountain.
pull out into the development, like right where you come out to the sand pit. There's the turnoff that goes to cozies right there.
Yeah,
Does this new trail make sense to you? I'm not so.
I haven't really poked too far in where the houses are going. But I think in this situation, it's the best you can do with it, right? Like I don't see any other way.
yeah. John Wallace asked whether you can do a trail from the road. It's called Pebble Court, just for information, but basically above those existing house lots, basically along the top of the sand cliff.
Through here?
Yeah.
Through
In theory, it looks like you could, but one, it's
It's all
wooded.
topple lines.
What?
It's like a lot of topple lines.
Yeah, well, it drops right off. I'm saying there's a buffer area between the house lots and the cliff. But you wouldn't really want to put a trail on top of a cliff. Again, liability issues.
Plus you'd be able to piss off more of the homeowners.
Right, yeah, get the whole.
I wonder why they don't just take the new blue trail and run it at the bottom of the slope all the way over to the parking lot, and stay on the
Yeah,
town.
well, then you're going to annoy all the new homeowners. Well, they don't. I mean, you can see where the house lots are.
No, I'm talking about like just go right across here at the
Yeah,
bottom of the slope.
that's what we were talking about. That's the top of the cliff.
No,
Yeah.
the top of the cliff's up here.
Well, the bottom of the cliff is the property line, so I'm just saying that's the way they carved out the lots.
Yeah.
So there really isn't room to fit in a proper trail. So that was the plan. So we have a motion to approve the signage. You have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. So I'll let them know. And I would think eventually we'd want to have a kiosk or something more substantial perhaps in the parking area. I don't know. I'll maybe make the suggestion if they want to. I assume they're going to have to put in a post or something to put up the sign. So I would think eventually we want to have something more there.
Well,
I don't know if you want it there or in here or.
Well, you want to where people can see it on the road. That's going to be the
Yes.
trailhead essentially. Right? But anyway, that's.
Will we be monitoring this?
That's still to be determined as well. It's probably going to be, my understanding is what he's used to, because of the previous development, the ridge back here, it's a deed restriction.
Okay.
Which,
That's not the model we want moving forward. though.
No.
We want
No,
a
that's true.
fee-based monitoring, so.
right, yeah, we are monitoring this one, right?
Right.
Even though it's not an official easement. Yeah, and I don't know legally how much difference it makes. I know John Wallace has made a fuss about that's
How
not
many acres?
adequate or not the best.
How many acres is that?
It's not,
Not
it's
that
25,
big.
somewhere in there, mid-20s, yeah.
What are you saying about John?
The issue is a deed restriction versus a conservation
I
easement.
see, okay.
They have a lot of the same verbiage. From what I've seen, I'm not that familiar with the whole.
I would think
process.
that's independent of whether or not we would impose a fee for monitoring. I would think we could do that with either type.
Yeah.
And we need to.
Oh, yeah,
because-
no, as far as that, we have, it's been brought up with this, new regime with the conservation subdivisions, but, and Falzone, I believe, did offer one for the ridge up here. So that's also, perhaps becoming part of the routine. I haven't heard specifically, but we certainly should push for that. And I've been pressing Connor to say, if we want more funds to cover these things, we need to, in particular, if we ever gonna have a staff person, that's one way we would fund them, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what they would be funded to do, is the stewardship,
Right.
so. Yeah, so that's, but unfortunately, it's all still to be determined. So anyway, thanks for, getting that part out at least, and, hopefully it'll be a good addition to our, overall picture. So the next item was the, Salwasser, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
The interloper appears to be someone who set up a camp on Salwasser, and that's the next item, there's a photo.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what's in that?
It's the next item in one.
I'm sorry, the email I sent you, there were 3 attachments.
I only saw 2.
No, there should
Hang
be a
on, let
third
me
one.
stop there.
It's just a photo, but.
Okay, I can't bring up
Is this
my.
like a homeless encampment?
Well, we're not sure. I mean, it's I haven't been out to see it. The reason I know about it is that a guy who hikes out there regularly sent an email to, the Conservation Commission email, and it said, hey, there seems to be somebody living out there. And he included this photo, which you'll see is fairly self-explanatory. But he was pretty certain that it's on Salwasser land. It's right on the border, actually. And we may want to bring up a map. Are you finding it yet?
Is there a tent?
Oh, there we go. No, but, well, I guess there is. The deal is this is an old cellar hole, I gather. Again, I haven't been out there. It's on the very end of where Tibbetts Road goes, south toward Route 4, I guess, eventually, or used to. And it's just past the power line right away. If you've been out there, there's the power lines that cut through there. And he's basically taken up the cellar hole, and it looks like there's some kind of covering in there, or maybe some kind of a little shelter. But in the front there, evidently, is the latrine. It's a bucket with the. I don't know. Maybe there's more than one person. He wanted a little privacy, but that seems to be, or maybe so he doesn't have to. Bucket's got a big hole in the dark. Yeah. Anyway, none of that is allowed, right? So I went back and forth with the guy about, where is it exactly? And he did give me coordinates, so you can look it up or go out there and check the exact site. But he said, and there's a Barrington Conservation Commission, green and white medallion sitting on one of the trees. It seems.
By itself, it doesn't mean anything to him.
Yeah, but he said, I'm pretty sure that it's conservation land. So, are you able to get into the, just our Concom website, pull up a map of Salwasser? I can show you more specifically where it is.
It's weird, when we were doing the assessment,
Yeah.
and we were in the lot talking, there was some guy that was walking over into the Caleb's building, but he had a backpack, a very large backpack, and another bag he was carrying like all his possessions.
Mhm.
And I gave thought and said, but I didn't know, what kind of, are you living in Salwasser? He seemed to be carrying an awful lot of stuff.
And where was this? That you-
It was when we were doing in the public lot, when we were doing the assessment.
Yeah, just right. Then.
Yeah, but he seemed to be carrying an awful lot of stuff.
Which
Yeah.
map do you want me to bring up?
The Salwasser.
Years ago, they
The trails.
Where is it?
Trails and lands.
tent
Under trails and lands.
on Satwasser, so it's not new.
And then there's a list of. Yeah, there you go. Salwasser.
Number 10.
I think the first one should show it. You gotta scroll down a ways. Oh, or maybe it's the map. I guess they're separate. There's a thing you click on to get them.
Well, this is the Satwasser.
Yeah, I guess that shows it. Closer, but. So here's the power line right away, and this is Tibbetts Road. Call. right there. So he said it was on the right as you head south down Tibbetts Road. And so that would make it right there.
Oh, it's near the edge.
Yeah, so it's right on the edge, but it is there. Now, just below here is the Emerald Acres Mobile Home Park. So it's possible that it's just somebody from Emerald Acres that thought it was a neat spot to hang out. Otherwise it's not that accessible. I mean, obviously it's a long walk from the trailhead up at Tibbetts. Although you can certainly go from Emerald Acres onto the right of way and get over there fairly easily. I don't know if this really continues very far. Has anybody been down there? I mean, it's not one of our main routes to anywhere, but it's possible that they're hiking up the other way to get there. So anyway, I guess my sense is we ought to just let the police know and let them handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we should, be the one. I mean, if you want to check it out, that's one thing. But
Right.
if you want to take any action about it, that's not something we should do.
No, and that's what I had mentioned to John Wallace because he was curious what it was about. Had the same suggestion. Is that everybody else's feeling?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they'll take it seriously.
Yeah. As far as we know, it's the first time we've had one of these, at least in recent memory. And you always hate if it is a homeless person, you kind of hate to put them out. But on the other hand, they really can't be, hanging out there, certainly not creating their own.
If it is a homeless person, then there probably are services that we should be advising. So I hope, and hopefully, maybe George Joy would know something about that.
Yeah, you think so? I don't
They
know.
can point them to services better than we could.
Yeah, certainly. I dealt with this a bit when I was in Portsmouth. They had a large homeless encampment along the railroad. It's still an active railroad, not just a right of way on North Mill Pond. And they actually chased them all out, took away their property, which seems kind of rude, but on the other hand, it's mattresses, clothing, whatever. So we don't know, but I would guess the police will check it out and see what the situation is. So, okay, well, I'll go ahead and pass that along to them.
Yeah, I guess both the picture, the coordinates, and maybe recommendation of best way to access it, because it's,
Right. Yeah, it's not easy.
The police would be happy about having to hike a lot of trails.
Right.
So maybe, from the Emerald Acres.
Yeah. I mean, we actually did when the easement there is held by the Forest Society, and so they're a person who does it every year. I went out with her 2 years ago, I guess, and we did park at Emerald Acres, walked in, to cover that last little corner there that abuts
Down
the.
here.
Who took the picture you showed us?
That's this guy. His name is Carter. Can't remember his last name, but
Somebody from Emerald
Yeah.
Acres?
Jello, something like that. What?
Somebody from Emerald Acres?
No. He probably lives up the other end of Tibbetts Road. He says he walks down it all the time.
Okay.
Been doing it for 10 years, so he knows it pretty well.
Yeah.
So we kind of went back and forth about the details. He seemed pretty sure that it was not in the right place.
Yeah.
It's not the first time we've had issues along that southern border. There's been shooting out there. We've had people come in with vehicles on the road, and there's always something. But all right, any other questions, comments about that? Are we good? Okay. And there was one other item that I didn't get on the agenda, but it's a follow-up thing, but it's an action item, and that's approving the costs for seeding the landing area from the Goodwill project. Recall, we've had a logging project off and on for several years, but it's finally completed, and the landing is awaiting some remediation.
Yeah, so they're going to come in with an excavator. They're going to clean up the landing some more. They're going to put in water bars on. There's a steep section of trail going down to a drainage. They're going to put in water bars on both sides of that. And, I had asked him to give us some quotes on seeding the area, and he did that. He gave different levels of what he could do there, ranging from very basic, which didn't sound like much, to doing a fair amount of, lime and soil prep and seeding, and he could do that combined with pollinator species and things like that.
And what was the budget?
Quote?
Yeah, the quotes.
I have to go off the sharing.
Sure.
Can someone explain what the landing is?
Yeah, sorry. So this is off of Ross Road, off of Beauty Hill Road. It's the back way into Goodwill. And it's, where they do the management of the logs when they're
Dragged
doing
out.
wood cutting.
So
And it's been used for several decades, I think, off and on.
Yeah, it was first used as a landing about 20-something years ago. And they left it a mess. It's much bigger now, but it's been cleaned up.
Yeah, so a couple acres or at least an acre.
It's more than an acre. I'm bad at estimating
Yeah, but
that.
anyway, it's a big opening and, it's right on the main trail, so, it's.
From there, if you're going into that area from the south, the trail, if you stay to the left, you'll see the continuation of the Goodwill Trail that goes up and eventually connects up with all our features on the northern end. Last week, we were cutting a trail going to the east, up around, over the top of Paul's property. We didn't hook up with our other trails yet. We were still clearing stuff. Because not everything we wanted to use was a woods trail. Some of it's still wet, to be expected. But a lot of, we didn't have to do that much clearing.
How long
Yeah.
will that trail be eventually?
I don't know the number for that.
It's gonna
Charlie would
connect
probably have an idea.
up to the ledges, that is?
That area,
Yeah,
so that you can do a loop. Because right now, doing that end, it's, you go out, you go back.
Yeah.
But that, and also there is a trail off to the west that goes over to the Beaver Dam.
Steve, we walked this.
Yeah,
Doug,
to the back
yeah,
way,
yeah.
yeah. I don't remember the landing or.
Yeah.
This is since then.
yeah.
It was
Well,
an
it was-
819.
I mean, it's been open for decades.
It was a lot smaller
Yeah.
than probably.
Yeah. Yeah,
The logging happened after that walk,
Oh, I see.
or some of this most recent logging, I guess. It was this winter, right?
Yeah. But it was after the initial stage of logging, so that area had been expanded quite a bit. It's still basically that size. It's going to be a big field.
and I'll mention too, this landing area is also one of the areas we designated as possible turtle nesting
right.
area for this project that
Right.
the Hampshire Wildlife Federation is looking at. So it'll
Is
be,
there a timeline for that?
it's supposed to be this spring. I haven't heard back from them, so I didn't have it on the agenda, but presumably they're gonna pick one or two sites. I gave them a list of 6 or 8, so,
Yeah.
obviously they're not all gonna get used, but that seemed like an obvious one, since it
Yeah.
is accessible. You gotta be able to get a truck in there and, it's open, so that's what the turtles like.
So
Yeah.
here's the quotes for you that, bigger than that.
Well,
The April
So,
9th mail was a little easier to read.
yeah,
and you spoke to Connor about this, and he thought this could come out of the proceeds from the logging job?
right, yeah, so, they got a bunch of money for all the logs, all the board feet. And at this point, he's just saying we should approve it, kind of in concept, not that we're gonna pay for it. So that's what I understand. So I guess we can go wild and go for we might as well go for the full
For the
treatment.
pollinators.
Did he tell you how much money?
Yeah,
this
so
is-
it's
I
up-
think the price is, this is not a lot of money.
Well,
Like
when you
50
read it over, so
No,
not
I
everybody
mean, how
can
much
see
money
that.
they made from it.
Oh.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
It was in the tens of thousands, I
Okay,
think.
good.
So, yeah, from
Good.
this stage, Connor was, I heard different numbers from Connor and from Tim. Tim told me it was in the vicinity of 30 to 35, Connor said 20 to 30. I don't know what they got for the first phase, which was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, could you just summarize though what the figures
Certainly.
are?
Sure. So for the full legumes and pollinator species, along with liming of the soil, $600 to $700. The next step down would be some treatment with lime and fertilizer, but basic seeding, 400 to 500. And then he basically throwing some fertilizer down and then throwing some seed down with not much more care than that would be about $200.
Mhm.
And so this landing area won't be used for logging purposes anymore.
It will.
Well, it probably will
20-something
20 years from now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's, in fact, AJ had proposed that we could get shrubs from the state nursery and plant them on the border. And Tim said, remember, this is going to be logged again, and this will be used as a landing in, not the near future, but he didn't think that would be a great idea because it will be destroyed.
But, it will grow in, obviously, the
Yeah.
seeds will, lots of stuff will grow up and
Like
they'll deal with it.
invasives.
Probably.
That's a little not.
That's what makes it well.
You don't have to spell it all.
That's actually a topic for our next meeting. There's some concern right back up here about invasives, but I'm gonna leave that for next time since we've got so much else. So
Muddy if you
does that sound good to people? I mean, since, I guess if we're not paying for it, what do we care? Might as well go for the
Oh,
That's what's
gold-plated
I hate that.
part.
Right. I don't hate it. but-
Oh, I do. I had to cut a trail.
Could we figure this out? So can I get a motion to,
I would propose a motion that we fund the legumes, clovers, and pollinator species phase of the project,
at 700?
I'll second that.
600 to 700.
Second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So, you're in touch with
Tim,
Tim about it?
I'll let him know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I'll let him know just that there's nothing, that we have voted on it and that we're in favor of it, so. he
Well,
should
CC
take it up.
Connor, of course.
Right. Take it up.
Hopefully they'll figure that out. I mean, it's not a big deal if we do have to pay for it. It's not gonna
True.
detract much from our accounts, but, as it is, we're kind of on the hook for other expenses that, for the engineering and all that may get covered by the town, but.
Speaking of engineering, another issue, so the dirt bikes have hit Goodwill again, they've been rolling around in there. When we get the plan from CMT for Richardson, it should include a gate, which, and that people can walk.
Well, there's an existing gate,
But
right?
it's, you can't walk around it and it's always open.
Yeah, well,
This is a gate that should be
Yeah.
closed and people should be able to walk, without having to climb over or under or go through the pond or
right.
what have you.
But I guess the dirt bikes are gonna find a way,
They probably will.
Yeah.
I mean, they can go in on Richardson Street, or Richardson Way or whatever it's called. And there are at least signs there that say they shouldn't go in, but they.
I have a feeling this is one particularly thoughtless person because I've noticed a ton of early spring riding just from one track all through town. It's just been
Yeah.
all torn up all over the place.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling it's just one particular person.
Yeah, maybe.
That's probably a young kid that doesn't know any better, because usually everybody else that does that sort of stuff knows to wait until springtime is over, right? So you're not making a huge mess. So
Right.
I have a feeling it's probably a young kid that's just out
Yeah.
ripping it up. It's a good
Well,
thing.
this is one of the issues of this interconnectivity that they call the downtown trails.
It totally is, right? Because
Wanting to get a better handle on it.
So I was out by this spring behind Aroma Joe's with my son on our mountain bikes, and we were on that snowmobile trail and we almost got run over by a guy on a side by side. just flying through there, like
Yeah.
so unnecessary, you know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't even have a sign on the dam entry that says that they shouldn't be there. So, I
Yeah,
mean, it's very understandable that people are in
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we should have gates. Now, that trail is a snowmobile trail also,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be a consideration, I guess.
there. Is it where it comes out into the parking lot, crossing the dam? I don't know.
No, I'm talking about the,
In further it
The
is.
south.
The other
Yeah,
part
yeah.
going to
Yeah.
Richardson.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they got their own bridge.
Yeah.
right? Which bridge? What? Not there. You're talking
The one
about,
that goes down into Richardson.
yeah, I'm talking about the one off Ross Road. But they did have a bridge out there
There is a
many
bridge.
years ago, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
talking about on the south end. Over here,
I
the
don't-
creek that comes out of your
I,
easement.
I think they've abandoned it.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely fallen apart or. you
Well,
know,
no, I mean, I think they actually officially
Gave up.
abandoned the trail when that guy put his property in.
Yeah, that may be, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
really know either.
I think it's still on the map anyway, it's the
That-
snowmobile
that-
trails.
That would.
Well, I know that what they do is they come in from Ross Road and then go, or,
Well, they can't come
Oh,
in
from-
from Ross
from-
Road. There's the trail, as you approach, as you go through the landing headed towards my field, and as you approach the field, there's a right and the trail continues on towards Young Road. That's a snowmobile trail.
right,
That's,
Yeah.
they use that.
yeah, and that will continue down
Yeah.
to Richardson. Or, the Go Creek, whatever it's called, that bridge. Yeah, so, and then they go the other way to go to Swains Lake, so.
Right.
That's still gonna get used. Anyway, it's something else. I guess you could mention it to Connor as well, but I'm not, I guess it's the road agent who, I don't know who controls the,
Well, there's nothing we
Gates.
can do until the new construction's done. That's why I think, the plan, whatever CMT proposes, I'm sure they're not gonna have a gate in there, and we should make sure that they do.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm talking about on Ross Road, right? That's where we thought they needed a gate, it needs to be managed better.
No, we've got a gate there.
Okay,
That's
Yeah,
all taken
okay.
care of.
sorry. Yeah, anyway, we will need to, add to the list of things that need work. Okay, great. So, that's all the new business.
Before you move on to old business, did you want to report on that meeting we had with, the ZBA, the zoning board of adjustment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the old business.
Okay, there it is. Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry.
Okay, didn't see it on the-
But before we do that, I'll just mention that this other foul zone project, this is the Mary Hill Road one. We did talk about it last meeting, but the deal is it's coming up before the planning board this coming Tuesday, right? May 6th, I believe. And this is the
I thought
new
Tuesday
amendment.
was the planning session. Is there a regular meeting? as well?
No, it's the next one. This one's the 29.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah, the one that Gary was referring to, it's the following week is the regular board meeting. So, so anyway, that's, the new improved or redone version, which we talked about really last week. So there's not really anything new there, essentially. Yeah, so getting to the conservation subdivision regs, if you recall, we all voted pretty strongly in the town election to redo them, this new package. And, it wasn't all spelled out, of course, on the warrant, all the details of it, but there's a lot of finer details to work out still. But we did have this initial meeting with both the planning board, well, all three, the planning board, the Concom, and the zoning board of appeals to try to at least nail down a few improvements. Key one, I think, for us was the communications that we've complained about for some time now, that we only hear about, particularly ZBA actions after the fact, so it's kind of useless to, and that happened, of course, with Young Road. And Young Road is kind of a case study for how not to do things. You know, we spent 2 years haggling over it. Finally got to something that we would have, you know, maybe been okay with from the beginning, but the developer obviously wanted more. So anyway, I don't know if you want to have some remarks about that.
You know, it was interesting, this whole concept. I mean, the whole thing was about the concept of these conservation subdivision regulations, which basically requiring all the developers to do now, which is interesting. I'm not certain that it'll be effective, but it's interesting. But the best thing that came out of the meeting was the kind of an agreement. I'm not certain just whether it was in writing or in code or whatever it might be, but that we'll be involved in getting information about new developments much earlier than we ever have before. It seems like in the past we've been notified of developments or given information about developments, but it's kind of, everything's all been done. They've been working on it for 8 months or a year or whatever, and then any input that we have is, I mean, it's not even really, they don't give it any consideration because it's already too deep in the planning process. So they've agreed to improve that communication, to involve us earlier in the planning process. That was the most important thing that came out of the meeting, as far as I'm concerned.
And it was unanimous.
It was unanimous, yeah.
They had a quorum of each board, and they all approved it, so.
And you said we'll actually be notified about ZBA activity as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I subsequently heard from Barbara here in planning that somebody will make sure. So you may know we no longer have a town planner, at least they're trying to fill the position Vanessa had. But conceptually at least, the idea is that we will get a heads up on those decisions, probably more than we want to know about. But obviously, the key ones we do want to know about. So they're going to be holding a work session this coming Tuesday, 29th at 6 p.m. And I'll task with Paul with leading the effort on that. As far as the Concom, I'm not sure what issues might come up, but we want to be sure that our interests are represented there as we can. Anybody else have any other comments or questions about that? I know it's a complicated process. There's a lot of fine points to it, but one of the issues, and it's sort of the next item, but it's kind of directly related to it, is this issue of baseline documentation. Coming in the middle of things a couple of years ago, I guess, as being chair, it dawned on me that sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There doesn't seem to be any direct requirement that baseline documentation be done. And this came up recently because the Dudzik property, if you recall, that the Swains Lake Water District is acquiring, I guess they did the actual study. They did a documentation of that and saying, gee, we should have this for all the sites, not just that one or not just here and there. One was done for the ridge back here, but there's not one for the Malago Road, the Bending Brook. There isn't one for the Garrier Road development. So it seemed to me that we ought to at least strongly suggest that they ought to put that into the regs, or at least have some strong recommendation that, and hopefully the developer would do that. It would be on the town to do that work. So I wrote up a memo, sent it on to Connor a couple weeks ago, and I haven't heard back as yet. So I'll remind him before the 29th, I guess. So I'm just kind of mentioning that might be one thing that we want press on. If folks agree, that makes sense. And, these are pretty useful items, it gets down to a lot of the, are there vernal pools on the property? Is there, areas that need special attention, or, existing, impacts, whatever. So it's a useful tool, and certainly for the monitoring, right? If we're gonna be doing future monitoring of the site, then it really helps to have that baseline, right?
You have some list of the guidelines of things you'd like to know ahead of time?
Well,
Or does this need to be made up, created?
yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how it gets, it's, again, it's one of these things where they seem to kind of do it when it gets, somebody makes a big fuss about it. It's not, a routine thing. But certainly for a conservation subdivision, it makes sense.
Well, it helped if there was a document, right, is what I'm getting at, of what needs to be done.
Yeah. But that's the idea, is that we make it a regular thing, so. Yeah, so that's one item. I mean, there's some others as well, but a lot of it came down to, in these previous developments, the select board or the planning board, somebody had to kind of beg them, to do some environmental assessment. That was with Young Road, it was,
Yeah, we had
it's
to
constant
insist on that.
battle. Yeah.
And actually had to do it twice because they ignored the vernal pool issue.
Yeah, so the idea is we should learn. What?
It should be routine.
Yeah, right.
With way routine is procedure.
Yeah.
Well, so is it routine for an actual conservation easement and not necessary for these other ones we
Well,
don't know?
again, the one up here wasn't an easement. I think it got a lot of attention because there were vernal pools that had been
But they
identified.
did it. I mean, the point is you can obviously do one when it's not required. Yeah, there's
Right.
nothing to stop you. The question is, are there situations where it absolutely is required?
I don't know.
I don't know
yeah.
either. There was, John did it
No.
for my property.
What?
John did it for my property,
Yeah.
which is and I was under the impression that was standard procedure for a conservation easement, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I mean,
Okay.
and that's what I started out inquiring about the Gerrier Road. If you recall, that was a kind of screwy situation where it went back and forth, and there were several different owners at different points, and
Well, and it was made into a conservation easement years ago.
right,
So,
and
who
it was kind of an odd arrangement to begin with, and so what they did is consolidated the easement, but there's no, again, no baseline of what all that looks like, and I was making the point that we have abutters who specifically complained about wanting to make sure that it stays protected because they're downstream of it, right? And it goes, right into Mendham's Pond. In many cases, and certainly when you're talking, Malago Brook and Bellamy Reservoir, it seems like it ought to be required because you're talking water supply. I mean, evidently, TurboCam had to go to extra efforts to create a wastewater treatment arrangement, for runoff, really, because of the fact that Malago Brook is a Class A waterway or something.
Are there state recommendations for such a list of,
I don't know.
Assessment of
I mean,
it.
I'm not, this
I
isn't
mean,
really
really,
my
for
forte.
conservation
Yeah,
development, really should?
you'd think so, but
Yeah.
that's what they're working on here, and we don't have to,
I think that's local ordinance.
right, yeah,
Maybe
and that's
John
actually an
Wallace
issue
could
in
help you.
Concord.
Especially since he doesn't get out much right now.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Because sometimes Concord, one of the departments has a template for things like that.
Yeah, it's
Which
possible.
would be helpful,
Yeah, it
you
would.
know?
But I happen to know that they are actually, well, somebody proposed legislation. I don't think it's passed as yet, but they wanted to try to do a one size fits all. And it was in a bad way. They wanted to, actually, the proposal is to, I have the bill number here somewhere, to have all lots be 1 acre, I believe. Yeah, they wanted to reduce the lot sizes, whereas, we're increasing, right? We went from 2 acres to 3 acres.
Yeah.
But they wanted to have this across the state,
Well, that's.
and everybody said, no,
No,
freaking
yeah.
way, that's, goes against local control, and, obviously it varies from town to town.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's, some of the issues that have been raised. So do you have some sense then of what we're aiming for, at least on that score?
I can wing it.
Yeah. We'll see what comes up. I think we do have allies there.
So you can create one.
Right.
Whatever sounds good, But it really is a great improvement compared to where we were, 2 years ago.
Yeah, no, and the planning board is supporting a lot of this.
Yeah.
So John Driscoll is definitely helping us out.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, well, we'll leave it at that, and we'll see how that works out. Just a little update on the downtown and trails. This is the new name, I guess, for the Interconnectivity Committee. But they're doing a specific assessment. I think everybody got the basic materials from them. And some of us participated in the first assessment effort. It seemed to go pretty well. They seemed pretty pleased.
And the woman that runs it, she put an article up on one of the news feeds about this project. And some of the pictures that we took are in it. Remember the one through the culvert?
Right.
She took that, and I said, "Oh, this is a postcard picture." She put it in.
Yeah. Yeah, so Jack and I went up the railroad right of way up to the library and checked out that route a little beyond there. Because there's also interest that Lemos, the Oak Hill Road, happens to abut on the railroad right away. So eventually there may be a public trail into there. But there's still some, ownership issues, or have to see, get permissions and all for access. And Ann and Charlie went out to the Village Place, right? And the middle school.
We went to Turbocam.
And Turbocam, yeah.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the idea with this assessment is it's kind of a wish list essentially, but it's, specific to the GPS coordinates on the map. And it's a crowdsourcing, I guess. The idea is you get many different people all putting their input in, and then they take all that data and all those pictures and suggestions and come up with a plan.
I've never been on that Commons perimeter trail before.
Oh, it's relatively new.
Yeah, we walked it as well.
So we did that as well.
But they give you a map function, which is an overhead shot, and you go in and you put a spot down and you tell them whether this is an opportunity or it's an asset to help make this happen. You already got trails there. This would be a good place for a kiosk. You ought to put a bridge here. And so you can go through the town and see it's littered with little dots we put in.
Did you like the perimeter trail? Did you like that trail, the perimeter one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it needs to be cleaned up a bit.
it does, yeah. I put that in last year.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I did that it was a rush right before they did like the pumpkin stroll and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
so, the roots need to be cleaned up a little bit, but
Yeah.
Get a couple of benches out there.
It would be nice, right? And like cleaning up by like where, almost where it looks over like the little marsh area, like clean up the woods right there so it's a little bit nicer. It'd be nice.
We noticed there was a bench on the other side of that gulch.
Yes.
By near the school, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they did extend the trail, I noticed, up to the parking lot of the school.
Yeah.
So, presumably kids could get on their bikes.
Yeah, they're gonna use it too for like emergency exit with the school, if they need it for anything, the kids can come right out there and funnel out instead of going to the movie theater and stuff where they were before, so that's good.
Yeah. So it should be a good improvement. So this assessment will continue through May, I guess, so they said. But they're also doing a phase 2 or a second assessment, which is essentially a public survey. And so they have this questionnaire with 8 or 10 items on it. And they're hoping to get a sense of both people who live in town and people that are visiting town, why they're visiting here, or what they're interested in. Are they just here to shop at Caleb's or whatever, or get a pizza? Or, would they go for a hike? And the idea is to try to tie together commerce and recreation. So the rec department is kind of heading that effort too. But Jesse, the rec department specifically asked, could we have some folks that, the Pooh Trail or something on a Saturday maybe, or, one of the trailheads to actually quiz people that are out on a hike, not just would you go on, but while you're on a hike, are you getting something in town? Are you, how do you like the hiking, So I don't know if anybody's up for doing that sometime, but, obviously some trails are better than others for volume. I guess Blue Trail's probably the one that
It's a big one.
would be
That's a
worth
big
doing.
But there is signups, like I'm gonna be hanging outside Hodgie's Barber Shop Saturday.
Huh? Okay.
And one of our select board members has already asked, can I come in, because she goes, I didn't do the training. Can you come and teach me how to do this? Because I'm supposed to be there after you.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward, and you can do it either on a cell phone or just old fashioned on a clipboard with the the questionnaires all laid out in these sheets. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in helping with that.
I gotta go pick up some more supplies for my stint, but I'm gonna ask them, can we put this thing out on like our Facebook page? It wouldn't be specific to, what are you doing in the center now? But so I don't know if the feedback has to be, well, they have to be in the center to answer it. I'll find out from Jesse.
Well, I would think that would, it's obviously not exactly the same results, but it would be
But
useful
you
information.
can still write about why do you go to the center.
Right. And it may be more likely to get people responding or.
Yeah, it might be
Their
Milo's beer, all right.
Right.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I found out that all those pieces of property are owned by him, and we could probably connect Ian's favorite hiking area to a place that serves pizza and beer.
Yeah, I would think that would be to their interest.
Ian will be in there dancing on tables.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway,
Well, they got
that's
nice
where that
tables.
stands. And there's been a few more refinements to this map that I keep saying is gonna be done, but he really did say it's kind of aim to have it done by the end of this month. We'll see if that actually happens. There's been a couple of changes of personnel at Stratford Planning, but it sounds like they're getting down to the finer points. We had several properties that were mislabeled, and I gave you that update there were a few numbers that were transposed or not quite right. He had the big open area next to the shooting range, in between Village Place and Waldron, and they had it as a conservation area. It was because one of the numbers was wrong in the list. No, that isn't. I'm pretty sure there's somebody living there. It's not in conservation. But there are other areas that actually Mariah helped me out with identifying some of the areas that are either owned by the city of Portsmouth or the city has an easement on them because of Bellamy Reservoir, right? So I think that's going to help there. Just, we want to get as accurate a map as we can. And, it may be, obviously the city of Portsmouth doesn't want anybody out there. It's not a public easement, but we want to know which areas are, accessible and which ones aren't. So that's coming. We hope sooner than later. So monitor, we got some.
Coming
up.
Here's passing around here. Latest and greatest. This is the hike list for this forthcoming year. With all the dates and set up. There'll be 16 hikes, starting the first one is the 16th. That'll be our first hike.
Sure, Friday, right?
Yeah, and most of them are on Fridays. I don't know if that works for everybody. If it doesn't, I mean, we're flexible. These days can be changed around a little bit. Whatever.
I won't be here on the 16th. I'm flying out, actually.
Well, listen, we're all, everyone's flying. We got a lot of hikes here, 16 of them throughout the year. It's all the way through
Yeah,
November.
so if you can do, one or
You do
two
one
of them or a
I
few.
mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
Sure. Actually, I want to get your email them. So I can get you on my hike list, so when I send this blast out.
And Pat, you have his contact?
I
info?
did, I got it off, when she mailed out the things, I got it
Oh,
addressed to,
Yeah.
I should be sending it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And I guess since we're doing admin here, to Matt and Mariah, I'm gonna be,
Yeah.
we're gonna be updating on the town webpage. No problems with putting your name on there?
No,
No one's in witness protection?
no.
Well done. Good.
Do the spelling story
I'd love
too?
to do some
Yes, yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Well, occasionally these things change, and so I just email out blast to everybody that's on the hike list, so. But this is what is scheduled for right now, so mostly on Fridays. 9 or 10 o'clock, somewhere in there.
What time are they usually on Fridays?
What
Like
time?
9 or 10.
Well, I think we originally were doing 9, but I think a few people complained, and so at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, me being one of them. I'm a morning person.
I wake up at 5 every day, so I'm ready to go, but anyway.
And I guess it depends on the site, whether it takes, 1 hour or 3 hours, but usually you get done by midday, right?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
They're usually 2 to 3 hours.
Okay, so I think that's it for the regular business, and unless anybody has anything else to bring up. Oh, are there any other trails committee things going on, or?
So we're starting to cut the trail, the bottom half of the Goodwill area. I'm gonna get the session up there. And I'm gonna bring up that, for that trail and the one out here that we've at least flagged it, we haven't really cut it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe we turn it over to Connor and his kids vote thing. He usually allows, the process is suggestions come in and he goes to committee and he goes, mostly it's been him and Tiffany, but it could be us. We could pick the ones that go on the ballot, so we won't have to be named after that silly name that ferry in New York got named. We could pick, ones that we would be comfortable with.
Mhm.
But that might help us bring more publicity to the program, the kids voting on a trail name. Because we're trying to get them out there.
And as far as the trail back here, the homeowners association is meeting this coming Wednesday. And Connor was gonna meet with them. He, touch base with us, because they probably like to know what the plans are there. I passed it along to Charlie, but I don't know if he's gotten back to him as yet, but, and I gather it's not, you still have to do, it's not ready to go, or it's
We flagged
a bit
what
of
we
work.
want to do.
Yeah.
It's mostly within the area that's enclosed with the stone walls. There's one area where I think we're going back and forth on exactly where we want to go. It's a couple areas that have got some really nasty thicket.
Right.
We'll have to clear. But,
Yeah, this is up on Green Hill proper, I guess. Up, guess it is Green Hill Road. It goes up there, but
no, we cross over,
Extension.
but yeah, you can't use that road much because so often it's underwater.
Oh, is that why we're
and it's really rutted out by.
It's run it out.
Oh, we
But because they're doing it,
Yeah.
we can't get the bridge across.
It's like a just example.
They'll
of
swallow you up
how
in there,
it's
those ruts are so
yeah,
deep.
yeah. It's funny though, one of the, big rutted areas is considered a vernal pool. It's actually on the map of vernal pools for that area, because it's a big puddle.
Well, I went out the day Charlie just wanted that thicket area. We went to the place where the trail is gonna be and didn't start there. We just went to where the thicket was. So we cleared up quite a bit that day.
Yeah, that's gonna be the most work.
Yeah.
But if you're wondering where the trailhead essentially is gonna be, there's
It's September
so,
lane.
yeah. When it goes beyond the figure eight, that's the layout of the development. it heads over there and there's like a big rock or two that, to keep vehicles from going down there, but it is a very nice pathway, to the old road. And then you hang out right, and get up to the other section.
This is the upper section you're talking about? Is that
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
That's a-
driving
yeah,
up.
that's a
We
great
did
idea.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
And it's really the only one that's really accessible without a
Yeah,
whole lot of
easily.
getting wet or building a bridge. So
Good.
that's where things stand. And as we've been mentioning, invasive species, there were specific concerns raised about that very property by one of the homeowners. So I think it'll come up as a topic on this meeting on Wednesday. But it's something that I want to flag for future discussion, that we, talk more about how we might contribute, or specifically they'd like to at least have a workshop or some kind of a program to identify, we're talking, bittersweet and the
Japanese knotweed.
yeah, and the
Buckthorn?
rose, the rambling. I don't know what.
So they didn't have any problems with the trail. They wanted some labels on it.
Well, I'm sure they will, but I'm saying they don't even know it's in the offing yet. I mean,
Okay.
Again, it would have been great if the developer had set up a sign program, but that hasn't happened. But I presume at some point there'd be some signage.
There was a sign when we enter, and there was,
Yeah,
one point, there was a trail camera there too. We were wondering who was
Yeah.
watching us. But
Yeah, it's kind of odd. But yeah, there's, I guess, one little sign that says public way or trail, two
Yeah.
trails. Yeah. But anyway, that's coming up. So, I guess that does it. Nothing on lands committee. They still haven't met recently.
No, I mean, no.
Okay. All right. Sightings, what are people seeing out there? New birds? I know the birds are coming back.
Birds are coming down, hawks are back, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, seen a lot of hawks. I just today saw a broadwing hawk for our house. And we have a number of interesting visitors to the bird feeder. Red-winged blackbird, brown-headed cowbird. It's just kind of odd because they don't normally go to feeders. And we had a really friendly hermit thrush, which was just hopping around. They only do this time of year. Most of the year they're back in the woods, and you hear them singing, but you hardly ever see them. But this is right out in the open, and it was like 5 feet from me, just sort of hanging out. I don't know. I guess they're just extra hungry or something. So.
The bats are apparently back. I saw a bunch of dumps on our deck too.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Okay.
Do you have a bat house?
They go under the
It's called an
eaves.
attic.
it's called my house. Yeah.
And also in the eaves are the amphibies, seen them as well. So, and we had a snapping turtle right by our entrance to our driveway at Lois Lane, and I don't know if it just ran out of gas, but it sat there it was there when I left for the meeting tonight, and I tried to kind of prod it to get across the road because I'm assuming it's heading over towards Screw Pond, right? But it just sort of was sitting there. It was still alive, but I was kind of concerned that it may have just run out of energy because it's a bit of a hike from wherever it was there.
You want to put a note on your dash to remind you when you get home, watch out for these people.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a huge one, but it's a good.
Oh,
Well, you can make it smaller.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, when I first went by it, I thought it was a chunk of wood or something fall off somebody's
That's
car.
really exciting.
Oh, yeah. No, we see them regularly. I mean, it's not
I do what you want.
uncommon. Yeah, they're out there. So
And all the sites I've seen say the hummingbirds are early this year.
really,
So, yeah,
ours
I've heard
seem
that
to be late.
there's been a couple sighted in Maine, on the coast and everything, so I'm going to put mine feeder on.
Yeah, we haven't seen any yet. I was going to ask if anybody had.
Speaking of bird feeders, any bear sightings?
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna mention that too. We've definitely had bear. We've been bringing in our feeders every night. Yeah, and they love suet, of course. And, yeah, they dump over our barrels of feed, even chicken feed. They don't like to eat it, but they love to knock it over. And we had one right up on our deck. I mean, they actually will get up and yank the feeders off under the eaves there. So one even actually went off, speaking of hummingbirds, it actually emptied our hummingbird feeder. It was nice enough not to rip it off. All that stuff.
They
Coke, right?
don't eat your chicken.
No, they don't seem to like it. I don't know.
What is it,
weird.
corn or something? What is it?
Well, we have two different, there's a scratch, which is whole grains, corn, mostly corn,
Yeah.
which they don't like.
Yeah,
And then what they really want is the sunflower seeds, flaxseed.
Yeah, that's what I
They
have.
go for, yeah. But, they don't know till they dump the barrel over
Yeah.
what's in it. So. I mean, one time they literally grabbed a whole bag, like a 40-pound bag of seeds and went off into the woods with it.
Where'd they get the 40-pound bag of seeds?
I don't know, just put it in his teeth or.
I mean, you had it out in the open?
No, it was in a barrel, but they managed to knock
They
it
managed to
over.
open it up.
Other critters don't seem to bother much. Oh, and we also have possums that I think this just happened since the last meeting. We have a little burial ground for our dead chickens, and so just to be nice, we put them in the ground, and this possum had actually gone out there and dug through like 2 feet of dirt. I mean, I dug a deep hole, and he pulled them out of there and ate them. So they're not too particular, and they've gotten good meals and several chickens. So
They say they eat ticks, so maybe rancid chicken isn't that bad.
we still have ticks though.
A sighting of a friend who lives about 2 miles from me. He lives right where the Isinglass runs into the Conchico River, a mile below, well, probably a quarter mile below that. And he saw a moose in the Conchico River about a week ago.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're around.
I've never seen a moose here, but
Yeah, there was one sighted swimming across Portsmouth Harbor. I believe it.
Was that right?
Yeah, it just wanted to get to Maine. Yeah.
They charge sales tax over there.
Ryan, did you have any sightings to report? Or?
Nothing really. We definitely have a possum living under our shed, but yeah, I don't think anything cool lately. A beaver over by the treatment plant, but that's in Mabry.
Oh, I almost forgot the most interesting one, I thought. And I don't know if it's a domestic sighting or natural, but on the little pond across from Caleb's,
Oh, yeah.
near the dove, Christmas dove, there's that little pond there. There are 2 swans.
I saw him today too.
Yeah.
I saw him.
And I don't know whether they encouraged them or got them or they just happened to settle there, but it's interesting because it's not a very big pond.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not.
2 of them floating
I'm
around.
not a big fan, so.
And I have to say, swans are actually invasive.
Oh, they
If you
are?
want to, ornery about it. They actually are. I had a long conversation with a guy in Connecticut where they've been around for decades now, and they take over ponds. I mean, they will chase out all the other critters and they eat all the food.
Very nice.
Yeah, and they reproduce. They're expanding. These are the mute swans as opposed to several other species that are native. But anyway, they look
Very
cool.
pretty. Yeah, they're very pretty.
And they're big and white, so check it out if you're down there.
Pretty white.
I did see some other native ducks too. We had mergansers. This was on the pond, the marsh by the Turtle Brook Preserve and the Barrington Trail, where the heron rookery was. I saw some mergansers. That's always cool. All right, anything else? All good? Just have a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Okay. Next time.
Tonight,